Salve Discipuli. Okay, we begin lesson 41 grammar today. You've already been introduced to participles in English in class. Now we're going to look at participles in Latin. They are tricky. This is a difficult lesson. This is a difficult concept, and they're ever present. All right, they're omnipresent, if you will. They're going to be everywhere. All right, so we're going to start actually by looking at a few vocab words, and we'll use these vocab words as part of our participle exercise here. So we start with woka, wokari, wokali, wokatum. I'll bet you all know that this word means call. That's correct. Then moneo, monere, monui, monitum. Do you guys all know that this word means warn or advise? Okay, good. Next word, capio, capra, kepi, captum. If you can't think of it, look at the last part, captum, and think of some English words like capture or captive. This word means capture or take. And then I think I have one more word for you, audio, audire, audivi, auditum. We all know this very well. Auditory, audition. This is hear. So these are the four vocab words I'm going to be using in my participle formation. Okay? Most of these you've seen already, if not all of them. Alright, so we learned yesterday in class, or 2 days ago in class, whatever the case may be, that there are three different types of participles in Latin. There is a present active participle, a perfect passive participle, and a future active. So we've got a present, perfect, and a future. Notice there is no present passive, there's no perfect active, there's no future passive. This is really weird. The Romans had a very successful civilization without being able to form those participles. It's amazing. All right? It causes you to have a lot more respect for the Romans, I would say. But the bottom line is we only need to know this present active participle, perfect passive, and future active. That's it. Okay? Now, we talked the other day about how to translate these. Your present active participle is going to be verbing, eating, killing, destroying, interrogating. Okay, those are all examples of present active participles. Just before we get too far into this, realize that if I say he is eating, that's not a participle. That's the whole present progressive tense. Is eating is the whole verb in Latin. A participle would be like he, eating an apple, choked. That's pretty unpleasant, but there you go. Alright, now the perfect passive participle is going to be translated having been verbed. Like having been killed, having been seen, having been obliterated. Those are all examples of perfect passive participles. Okay? So the town, having been destroyed, was smaller. There you go. Future active participle. About to verb is the way we translate these. Okay? If you want, you could translate them like they do in the South. Say fixin' to verb. Okay? That's fine. About to verb, fixin' to verb. Those are both acceptable translations of the future active participle. Okay? Now, those are translations. Let's talk about how they're formed. And this is going to be the trick here. Your present active participles, you're going to spot them. You're going to be able to recognize them because they will either end in NS or they will have an NT followed by an ending. Okay? And I need to reveal this right now. The ending that follows the NT would be third declension. Alright? So either end in NS or they have an NT plus a third declension ending. So these are going to have noun or adjective endings because participles are basically adjectives. Now the perfect passive is just the fourth principal part of the verb. You're done. That's the perfect passive participle, the fourth part. Those are going to have first or second declension endings. Okay? We're going to get to some examples in a second. This is probably a little bit confusing for people right now. That's okay. I'll show you examples in a second. The future active participle is going to be the fourth principal part with a UR inserted, and then that will have first or second declension adjectives, or first or second declension endings. And at this point, the very astute student will realize, hey, these are going to look like part of our infinitives that we learned a few lessons ago. That's correct. And perhaps you're thinking, that's going to make this really confusing. That's also correct. Good luck. Alright, now let's look at some actual examples. We're going to start with the present active participle. We're going to start with our word woko up here. We're going to turn it into a present active participle. Wokons. Okay, note the NS right here. This is a present active participle. It's in the nominative case. The NS is your nominative singular. So this means calling. And it would modify some subject. Okay? Consider this. Where'd my cursor go? There we go. Wocontem. This is also a present active participle. See the NT snuggled right in there. Then notice the EM, which is a third declension accusative ending. Okay? Hence wocontem. This should be easy to remember because the NT, just like in present active participle, okay, the NT is a present active participle. This is also going to be translated calling, but this time it will modify something in the accusative case. Okay, whereas up here we had calling as a nominative, down here we have calling as an accusative. Alright, let's look at one more present active. Let's try a different verb. How about capio? Let's try this. Capienta. Okay, notice there's an IE here. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to form Latin. You just have to understand it. So you can pretty much ignore this IE. You focus on the NT, right? The present active participle. And then the E here is a third declension ending, so that's an ablative. The E in the third declension is ablative. So this also means calling, but it's going to be modifying some ablative noun. Okay? So, I'm not going to go through all the third declension endings there. Alright? Like I talked about the other day in class, this is something you should have under your belt at this point. Okay? You should know these third declension endings. If not, that is something to review tonight. This will not be a long video. Spend a few minutes reviewing your third declension if you do not know it. So those are some present active participles. Alright? Now we're going to look at some perfect passive participles. Remember, this is just the fourth principal part. So let's go to this one, captum. Boom. That's a perfect passive participle. That all by itself means having been captured. Boom. There we go. Notice the UM. It looks like it's either accusative or nominative neuter. Okay? Why? Or I should say, how do I know that? Well, this UM in the first and second declension shows up either in the accusative or the nominative neuter. Alright, those are the only two possibilities. Let's look at another one. Let's go with auditum here. Let's try auditarum. Okay, auditarum. Alright, notice the audit. That's from this fourth principal part. Then it has a first or second declension ending on it. In this particular instance, it has arum, which we know is a genitive ending. So this is having been heard in the genitive case. You'll notice I'm not translating this of having been heard. Okay? Because these are adjectives, they will have to agree with nouns. Okay? So it'll be something like of the man having been heard. Okay? Or of the birds having been heard. So that's why I'm not translating the of yet. Let's look at one more perfect passive. This word is probably feeling left out. Monitas. Alright, notice the monits part coming from our fourth principal part up here. So it's a perfect passive participle. Notice the as, okay, that's from the first declension. That's an accusative plural ending. So this means having been warned, and it's accusative. Okay? Alright. Finally, let's look at some future active participles. Let's try this one. Wokatori. Okay? Note the wokot part. That's your fourth principal part. Then I've inserted the UR for our future active participle. Oh my god, this is going to be easy to spot. We've got the UR here and the UR in future active participle. Piece of cake. Future active participles have first and second declension endings. So this I is either a nominative plural or a genitive singular. So this means about to call, and it's either nominative or genitive. Alright, let's do a couple more. Kopturos. Notice the copt, just like up here in the fourth part. We inserted the UR of future active participle. We added an OS from the second declension accusative. So let's say this one is fixin' to capture, and it's accusative. Alright. Whoa, I misspelled fixin' to. That's embarrassing. Now I got it. Alright, how about auditor? I don't know. Let's try this. Auditoris. Notice the audit from the fourth principal part. Notice the UR from the future active participle. And the long IS from the first and second declension. That's ablative or dative. About, to, hear, ablative or dative. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you just a few more. We're almost done. I'm going to mix them up, and you guys are going to have to tell me what kind of participle it is and translate it. Okay, let's try this. Monentibus. Monentibus. What kind of participle is it? That's right. It's present active because of the NT. And notice it's got a third declension ending in ibus. Alright, so as a present active, we're going to translate it warning. Good job. And it happens to be dative or ablative. Let's try. Sorry. Auditorarum. What kind of participle is that, people? That's right. It's a future active participle because of the UR. Alright? It has an RM ending, which is a first declension ending. So we're going to translate this about to here, and it's in the genitive case. Did that just modify itself? There we go. All right, good. Now, let's try another one. Wokata. That comes from the fourth part. So what kind of participle is that, people? That's right, it's perfect passive. How are you going to translate it? That's right, having been called. You guys are so smart. Let's do another one. Capiens. That's correct. That's a present active participle because it ends in NS. How are you going to translate capiens? Correct. Capturing. And because of the NS, it must be a nominative singular form. Okay. Now, what do you absolutely positively need for tomorrow? You need to know these three participles. You need to know their translations. And you need to know how to spot them. Okay, the NRS and the NT, the fact that it's a fourth principal part, or the UR inserted to a fourth principal part. If you do not know these things for tomorrow, expect to be destroyed. That is all. Waleta.